Hello everyone. My name is Michael. I am the producer of the Biennale of Sydney. Thank you so much for coming today, and thank you particularly to Accessible Arts for choosing us as the partner for this amazing program. Before we get into the meat of today's event, Access, Ideas and Insights, Growing Inclusive Audiences, I would like to invite Daniel McDonald to open the event with a welcome to country.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'd like to do a visual description. It's very important if there's anyone watching who is blind or vision impaired. So I'm wearing a pair of blue glasses, a green shirt over a blue and green striped t-shirt. I'm wearing blue jeans and blue shoes. And I've got brown skin. I have an interpreter whose voice you will hear right now. Her name is Deema. Thank you. My name is Daniel McDonald and I'm a proud deaf Aboriginal man. I'm an artist, an actor, and I go by the handle Deadly Hand Talk. I'm a member with the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, and I'm here to help perform a welcome to Gadigal country. I would like to pay my respects to all Aboriginal elders past and present, and respectfully acknowledge any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander brothers and sisters here with us today. It doesn't matter which nation, Aboriginal nation, that you are from. Whether you're Indigenous, non-Indigenous, we are all brothers and sisters here today, where we meet on Gadigal land. It is only right that we honour the traditional custodians of these local lands and waters. Today is the 26th of May, 2026, and we have a special event hosted by Accessible Arts. Access, Ideas and Insight, Growing Inclusive Audiences. I would like to thank you for inviting me here to this event and to acknowledge that there are many different cultures and a great diversity of people here in Australia. I would like to tell you a story of one of my paintings called Start New Beginnings. Always. Today is not the same chapter. Chapters of the past. You might be watching a dark sky, but the waves are smoothing the edges. If you're hurting from the past, sit on the sand. Watch the sunrise in the morning. Listen to your heart. Smell the sea mist brought in by the breeze. Feel your hand swirl in the sand. Everyone is around you. You are never alone. Value life's simplest pleasures. Find meaning in small things and magic in every experience. Start the new beginnings. On Gadigal land today, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you're from, but you are here meeting on Gadigal land, remembering the past and the present, acknowledgement, inclusion, understanding, love for each other, respect for each other. I'd like to say a big thank you to the staff who were involved in setting up this event. And I'd like to say for you all to please keep in contact with your families and friends and travel home safely. Enjoy your event, and I'd also love to wish the panel, I know you're all feeling a little nervous, but I'd love to hear what you've got to say and I'm really looking forward to it. Please be confident and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for the beautiful welcome. As I said, I'm moderating today's panel discussion, and I'm very thrilled to be joined by these wonderful panellists. We're going to be talking a lot today about audiences. When we talk about growing audiences, in some contexts in the arts, particularly in the kind of decades past, we talk mostly about the idea of increasing audiences. I think there is a drive in the arts sometimes towards an impulse of perpetual expansion, growth for growth's sake. And that's not really what we're talking about today. We're talking about growing in a very intentional way. And growing the audiences from certain communities, reaching people that we are neglecting, reaching people that we have not been able to build relationships with, or whose relationships we have not actively pursued, and redressing a lot of that harm or the kind of gap in our community building. We're very fortunate to be gathered here today on White Bay Power Station, one of the Biennale's 5 exhibition sites. The others are the Chowchackwee Museum at Sydney Uni, the Art Gallery of New South Wales, and also Campbelltown Arts Centre and Penrith Regional Gallery, which is part of the Biennale's commitment this edition to have more of a dialogue between Eastern and Western Sydney. And we'll be talking a lot about different forms of access with respect to people's different abilities in a kind of disability justice framework, but also cultural access, community access. And to help unpack this topic, I'm joined by 3 remarkable panellists, and they are Rosell Flatley, who works as the Access Program Producer at the Art Gallery of New South Wales, Angie Goto, who is an artist and an educator, who has worked extensively with a number of arts and cultural organisations across Sydney, including the Biennale of Sydney, and we've developed a very close relationship with Angie over the past few years. And then also Sidney McMahon, who is the Director of Parramatta Artist Studios. So before we jump into it, a couple of quick notes. We will have questions at the end of the panel. Please don't be shy. And you can ask questions from the audience, but we've also got an additional audience joining us from home as we're live streaming the event. We will start off with questions in the room, and then we will jump to questions from the people who are online. If you are watching from online, feel free to submit questions at any point through the Slido. But jumping into it, starting off, let's talk very broadly about this theme, growing inclusive audiences. When we talk about inclusive audiences, what does that mean to you? Why don't we start with you, Sidney?
It's always good to be the first panellist to say something, I suppose. Hi, everybody. I'm Sidney McMahon. I always like to say that I have the best job in the world as the Director of Parramatta Artist Studios. How lucky am I? And I'm wondering when they'll work that out. But until they do, wow, I've got feedback. That's cool. I was thinking about this question, and I was thinking about the fact that, audiences exist despite whether they are included or not. And I guess that question is always part of our thinking process. So I guess it starts with thinking about who is present in the room, who isn't present, how can we make sure that that space feels like it's open to new communities in different ways. And that's answered through so many things, but I guess as our framework of work is that we're an artist studio facility to start with, that we are always led by the artists that we are involved with, and that as an organisation we really love feedback and really invite it and honour that feedback to try and build things in a better way, in a more inclusive way. But that inclusion is never defined. It's always open. And that including more people is really, I guess, people feeling like they can see themselves in that space, and that the barriers to that space are not as big as they previously have been, I suppose. Yeah.
And Angie, how do you feel about the idea of growing inclusive audiences? What does that mean to you?
I've pretty much covered what you've been talking about. Hello? You have pretty much things that I've been thinking about is about listening to the audience, gaining oh, no. Okay? Yeah. I've taken some notes down, but before I start, speaking, I normally do offline, but I'd rather speak as my first language, and I'm a little bit nervous. If I sign, I've got to fumble and across. What it is about experience where people are safe and respected and understood. Just really listen to them, to what they're asking for. That's really important. And not treat it like tick on the box, like a tokenism thing where you will walk interpreting the last minute after an afterthought. That's what we don't like. Oh, no. Hello? Does that sound better? Yay! Nice and clear. Okay, but did you get most of what I said? Shall I repeat or is it okay? You missed a little bit. Okay, what I'm saying is about gaining respect and safe and being understood, especially in the deaf community, and treated not like a tokenism, a tick on the box, just because you're bored and interpreting. It's more about embedding from the start to the end, you know, working together, and it's making sure that they feel that they belong and they will want to come back once they know that it's been from the start to the end. I think that's really important. Yeah. Okay.
Hello? Okay. Oops, sorry. Kamusta, which is Kamusta, that means hello in the Philippines. To my friends online as well, I am going to describe how I am. I've got brown skin, covered in tattoo. Going from the top, I've got long curly hair. I'm wearing blue shirt with a flower on the front and kind of a checkered black and blue with a hint of red and a colorful socks, which is purple on it. I guess for me, inclusive audience is just about, isn't just about who shows up. It's about who feels welcome in the institution, represented, and able to participate. It means we actively removing the barriers like cost, accessibility, and also cultural relevance. And building kind of like a real relationship in the community who might be not traditionally engaged in the institution. And importantly, it's just about getting through people through the door, but making sure that experience actually works for them. That's my...
On that topic, actually, you've worked a lot on a couple of programs at the Art Gallery of New South Wales, both Culture Dose and Culture Dose Kids. These are very grounded in community arts practices and cultural safety. Do you want to tell us a little bit about these programs, how they were developed, the buy-in from the gallery, and how they've been received?
Yes, so for the participants to our audience who doesn't know our programs, there are two types, which is Culture Dose for Kids and Culture Dose. So Culture Dose was research embedded with the Black Dog Institute with the collaborations with the Art Gallery of New South Wales. But also I just want to give this a shout out to my colleague Danielle Goto, who is the embedded of this program, and also work closely research into this this beautiful program that's been embedded into the Art Gallery of New South Wales. The pilot started at 2021 till the 2023, and then it became expanded within the the regional areas in the galleries. And then we've also been continuing on. This is our for Culture Dose for Kids. I'm talking closely about Culture Dose for Kids. It embedded into the art gallery. This is our 9th session in the art gallery, and again, it's combined with art practice and mental health research. It is an 8 weeks program into the and it is with children that is 9 to 12 years old. It's for children dealing with anxiety, and the children and parents and carers are part of this program. And then, so it's a parallel sessions with the collections of our works in the gallery, and then it is developed through our artist facilitators. It is designed with a safe and non-clinical way of programming. What I mean by that is basically giving them a sense of joy, a sense of belonging, and also for us, for letting them listen to how they're expressing their feelings. We're taking also out from how school system is and how we are engaging with children. And ways of engaging with them is art. Art is ways of expressing, no matter how, there's no right or wrong in expressing it, because it is them telling us what it is. So from that, there's the good thing about the 8 weeks program is that the long continually of being able to understand and relationship with the families, especially who've never been in the institution. And from the 8 weeks program, the parents always ask us, what happens next? And so we also offered a Culture Dose alumni, which previous cohort of families can come back to it as well. They already know and they already have the understanding of the space and the people that they work with, so that long relationship with them has carried on. Also, afterwards they leave, parents and the children can come back on their own way and into the space, and already have that access of how the program works. So that also embedded into Culture Dose, which is for adults. We offered that twice a month in part of Art After Hour. It's the same system as well, but it's not an full 8 weeks program. It's more of like a one-off situation, which is for adults who just need some time to unpack, with guidance of the questions as well. And then it kind of embedded with community. The community that I actually wanted to, we discussed this with our colleagues and about who do we want communities to come up in with. So able to go externally with stakeholders that we haven't had the chance to connect with.
Yeah, I find that it's a big thing with the Biennale, like building programs. We will often put a lot of time and resources into creating programs, but we don't necessarily put the same time and resources into getting those people through the door. Like there is a sort of assumption that if you build it, they will come, but they will not necessarily come. And on that note, the Biennale has a sort of, I think, is on a real journey when it comes to physical access, and a lot of the things that the Biennale is doing for its own access program are the results of the advocacy of the people in the community and the artists that we work with. And one such artist is Angie Goto. Angie, you've done loads of programs across Sydney in various different contexts, and you've been a very significant figure in the programming for deaf and hard of hearing people in the Biennale in the past 2 editions. And do you want to speak a little bit about those programs, but also about the advocacy that you have done within the organisation to get us to get our act together?
Yes, thank you. Just before I go on, because we had a technical issue, I just wanted to drive what I look like for the low vision people. I've got brown hair, it's quite long and shaggy, and a red shirt and a pair of black pants, I think. Black pants, again. And black shoes. Okay. Right. Yes, I have worked on a lot of programs, and it's all about trust and commitment and really listening to what the community want. And for you, Finale, at the beginning, we had to tell you what we needed, and we thought that just advertise, but it's not. It's a lot more complicated than that. It's all about offline videos. Offline videos are a huge asset. It's really important to get all those deaf community to come along. And also the fact that not only just me, it's also Stu, who's another deaf artist, and we work a lot together. So these deaf community, they know us well, so they feel comfortable and safe and know that it's authentic, that what we're going to deliver is really authentic, and the safe place for them is not a place for people to come and learn Auslan, which is another bit of a problem there. We try to make it so that it's their time, their place, and their enjoyment, because it's rare for them. Because how often do you see deaf community going out and having a good time, like in the last group? There's not much. So for them, it's very rare and it's very special for them. They get very excited. So the Biennale has grown a lot from the first time we started, especially this year. The gesture tour was amazing because it was more accessible for the deaf community, able to communicate better about the artwork through gesture, not just offline. It becomes more deeper, it becomes more personal, and I really loved it, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the big learnings for the Biennale over the past 2 editions with respect to Auslan programming is that when we initially started working with Angie and Sue, I mean, Angie and Sue's relationship predates my time at the Biennale, but for the 2024 edition, we hosted a bunch of Auslan tours that were basically the regular art tours that we do, but translated into Auslan. And we've had a lot of trouble getting people into the room, and that's partially because of the requirements to market directly to deaf and hard of hearing audiences, which we'll speak to a little bit later on. But I also think it's partially because as we are learning more and more through our collaboration with Angie, deafness is a culture, and like translating the program.
Culture, and also it's like having a relationship with them, and you know it's going to be authentic. It's not going to be just a one-off thing that takes time to build up. But not only that, I've been working with Next Then, which is a deaf school. It goes from kindergarten to, I think, year 7, or maybe, year 6. And it's a wonderful school. It's amazing. I've been working a lot with them, to become a partnership with them through the NCA. We're very excited about that because we wanted to create role models, like for me, art and deaf artists in the art institution, which may be a bit intimidating for them because it's too fancy, too, you know. So to be able to see me there as well as other deaf artists there, and making it welcoming and warm, and being able to get them to come for a 5-week program to learn about art and develop their own work and have a little exhibition at the end. So I'm really excited. That's going to start next week, and then we'll have a continuous relationship with them. So I'm really, really proud of that, because it's nice to be able to start from when they're young. And at least, because I remember when I was young, I didn't have any role model. I couldn't even see any deaf people on TV, or it's always interpreted, or a hearing person who's acting as a deaf person. But where are all the deaf, authentic deaf people? So it was a very hard struggle for, well, not just for me, for a lot of deaf people growing up not having that access or exposure to it. And I'm really excited that for the last couple of years it's becoming more and more inclusive, and people are starting to listen. And yeah, so that's exciting, yeah.
Amazing. And that's a really good example, I think, of something that the next question is asking, which is what does it look like? What is a good kind of example of like meaningful long-term audience engagement? So this, you know, model of working with like young kids from like kindergarten to year 7 in a kind of institutional context is fantastic. But do you have any other examples, maybe Rosell or Sidney, of like really successful audience engagement initiatives?
Yes. I feel like we have a program that's running at the moment at Parramatta Artist Studios, which also I want to stop there and just say I am going to give an audio description of myself. I am a larger bodied person. I have short brown hair that's tied back in quite a slick middle part way, and I'm wearing all black, head to toe, except for a sort of blazer that is navy blue with white stripes. So, in answer to your question, yes, I think to answer that question as well, I want to start by saying that I feel like audience engagement, we try and look at this rather than thinking about broad audience, we think about individual audiences, and we think about the people who are in the space and who are there, and how to grow that trust, that sense of belonging, a sense of welcome. Because you'll know today, like it is sometimes hard to get to a space for multiple reasons, and to have someone come to the studios is huge, and we see that as powerful, that moment of someone being present. So building that trust, honouring what we say we're going to do to the best of our ability, realising that we make mistakes, and that access is always something that is evolving. It's never a closed circuit. And trying to, I guess, in you know, building those relationships that, yeah, it's not a one-off moment, that it's saying, you're here with us now, what are you interested in? How can we work with you? Do you want to work together? And what does it mean for you to be here as well? So yes, I think, and then an example very quickly is our program which we started in April last year, that's called Bare Skills. It's a program for young people aged between 14 to 25. So it was built in consultation with the Parramatta Family Group and a board of youth consultants. And out of that, the program was built intentionally with First Nations knowledge sharing as a basis of every iteration of it, including as well, every iteration has a smoking ceremony and a welcome at the start. And then included in that as well, I mean, the whole program is about climate insecurity in many ways, and that anxiety fueled the topic from those younger people. And as well as that, we always have a quiet space, and that quiet space is also somewhat programmed or thought through whatever the topic might be of that particular iteration. So, you know, this program, to start with, there was a bit of a stress in the team about how many people were coming, and we actually learnt a lot from Marion Abood, who is a studio artist and whose work we can see over here, the car and the hanging images, where she was talking about her practice and her practice with community, and she really just said that it's important that, you know, there is, if there's one person or if there's 300 people, it's a success, because community takes a long time to build, trust takes a long time to build, and people are busy as well. So if you have one person there, it is incredible, because that one person has taken time to put into that event. So yeah, I guess we learn from artists and try and do our best.
Hello? Yes, beautiful. Shout out to Marion Abood as well. The Biennale had a similar experience. We worked on a program this year, or one of the major works of the Biennale was by a collective called DAR, Decolonising Architecture and Art Research. And we partnered with Think and Do Tank Fairfield on that work. And Marion is the kind of director of multilingual programs at Think and Do Tank, in addition to her arts practice. And it was such a useful and instructive exercise, I think, in talking about accessibility in different ways. I think, are focused on accessibility, like, primarily in a cultural and linguistic sense. But one of the main ways that came about was through a lot of what at the time felt like organisational friction. Like, the Biennale is quite rigid, and Think and Do Tank are very embedded in community practices. But going out to Think and Do Tank's events, and Samia is also in the audience today, thank you Samia, who was involved in all of these programs. Their approach to accessibility involves like copious amounts of really incredible food, and like a lot of flexibility around the start time and the end time of the event, allowing people to speak in whatever language they feel most comfortable with. Like, it is a real kind of decentering of a very institutional framework that allows people to feel much more relaxed in those spaces. It's probably one of the most diverse events that I have been a part of, and like an audience that we would never normally actually see coming through the space. But because of that, we've got 2 busloads of people from Think and Do Tank coming to the gallery on Thursday. So, you know, it's I think a lot of it is about breaking open your understanding of what accessibility means, and also meeting people where they're at, and not trying to like fold them into your space, but expand your vision of what your space could be. And on that, I might just move to Rosell quickly and ask you, how can organisations, both the organisations you work for now, but more broadly, more meaningfully recognise and respond to new communities that they're working with, and haven't traditionally participated in their programs?
Hello? Okay, I got it. Okay. I think it starts off with listening and relationship building. It's rather than jumping straight to programming. And, you know, I think also strategic planning, which is we have which is the DAP, the Disability Inclusion Plan, and Diversity Inclusion Policy. So that really is the pinnacle of our ways of engaging in programming in the art gallery. But to, I guess, to respond, what was it? More meaningfully recognize. So the meaningful way, I think, it's more about listening to, first, the policy that we have, And then the other element into that is that they're people. We just want to be heard. We just want to listen. And from that, we bring that response in of how we engage that. So I guess the cultural dose and culture dose for kids are, there is a system and there is a development of it, but over time, it's the people who creates this development, improving the program and improving of ways of, I guess, moving around the space in the institution and moving around languages. And I think major things is languages. Ways, I think one example with the culture dose for our community, we were dealing, we have a long relationship with Settlement Services, which is called SSI, and they bring asylum seekers and refugees into the to our space, and we were talking about Aboriginals and First Nations, and that language does not compute to them. So that was when I jumped in, when our facilitators were talking about that word, and I said to them, do you know what that means? And they said no. And so language is a really massive thing about listening to that, to kind of welcoming the program. And the community is actually developing this program.
And Sidney, Parramatta Artist Studios has a strong commitment to artist development and socially engaged practice. From your perspective, is there a connection between supporting artists over the long term and actually growing audiences that sort of are in the orbit of those artists?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about Parramatta Artist Studios, for those who don't know a lot about it. This is our 20th year of operation. We are part of City of Parramatta Council. So, the sort of constraints of the institution are ever present, but we are always trying to use our creativity to think through other frameworks of working with that. But thinking about the long-form engagement that we have with artists. So, over those 20 years, the artists across those 20 years, there are so many that we're still working with. For example, we commissioned an artist called Tom Polo to do a banner series as part of our 10-year relationship with Artspace last year. And Tom was part of the studios, I think in the second year that they were there. So sometimes these relationships are 2 decades old. And that sort of seeing an artist through different iterations of their practice, of who they are, of their needs as well in terms of the spectrum of life that is provided to us and that we have to meet, is something that we are very aware of in terms of trying to, make sure that they feel that PAS is a place that they can return and feel included in. And yes, in each of these situations, when we welcome a new artist or a returning artist to our cohort or into a program or part of an extended commissioning program even, there is always different audiences and different people who come with them. And again, it is about seeing the individual within that and welcoming them into the space and understanding what it may have taken to arrive in that space as well. So it's absolutely linked. And again, Marion Abood has been part of the PAS family for a long time. And, I made a joke last week when one of the artists, I incorrectly had a meeting in my calendar with them, And she was like, we don't have a meeting today. And I was like, every day I am learning from the artist, and it's so true. You know, it's like, tell me who are you right now? What do you need? And we're very lucky that the answer to that is really our job. And I have such an amazing team that I work with. Samia is one of them in the audience. Shout out Samia. That are just exquisite at holding those relationships and thinking through ways that we can be more present for new audiences as well. So carrying the ones that we have and expanding out to new ones as well.
Yeah, it's always great. I think you do get a bit of an uptick every time you bring in artists from new communities of their community coming to support them. But also we do find, as we were saying before, like you have to very actively invest in the kind of community building and marketing around bringing people in. And on that note, somewhat thorny topic to wade into is marketing of programs in the first place. You know, and that is the marketing of programs for diverse audiences, like in the cultural sense, but also the marketing of programs for audiences with different access needs. And I thought we could maybe throw to the panel and talk about the sort of innovations in marketing that have been really successful, but also the deficits that are barriers to people's access. And maybe you sort of alluded to some of this before. You could start us off, Angie.
Yeah, okay. It's about timing, really. That's really important because to create the offline videos, it's a lot more complicated because you have to translate it from English to Auslan. So that takes a bit of time. And especially when you come to like the English can be quite complicated, and you wanted to make it really clear for the deaf community because it's their first language rather than English. And you know, to be honest, English it's just waffled on. Sometimes it's just, you know, they're just talking waffly. So cut that out. Go straight to the point. That's all the deaf people want. Go straight to the point and get the answer or information. So that as well, but also, there's another thing that I wanted to mention before, what is really important that I feel that all institutions should have is deaf awareness training. Once you have that, you have a better understanding and you have a better relationship with your deaf the deaf working with me, you know, that kind of thing, and understand what our needs are. Because, yeah, that is really important. And then to do the marketing video, hiring a deaf consultant, why we hire a deaf consultant, it's not because we can do offline, it's for them to stand and be able to see from a different perspective to make sure it's clear. So the information comes across nice and smooth and clear. So yeah, so it's a little bit of work and keep advocating to bring offline on website, on social media, on Instagram, Facebook and that. Especially add an offline symbol with it because then it's easy for them to find where to get that video to watch as well, rather than just searching and then going down the rabbit hole and then finally there's the video and most of them they just give up. So it should be right up the top on the front, yeah.
Last edition we added Auslan videos onto the page of the various Auslan programs after the festival was already like well underway because we were finding that we were not being able to bring in a lot of deaf audiences because they couldn't understand the bookings page and also the purchase pathway was confusing. Yeah. And so this edition, we, thanks to Angie's advocacy, recorded those videos at the start of the process, which is much better. And pursuant to what Angie is saying, there was a point where we had provided Angie's collaborator, Sue, with the curatorial text that our artistic director had written to be translated into Auslan. And it was probably about 500 words, and Sue was like, no one cares about that. We could do that in 20. And so the video was about 20 seconds long.
Yeah.
But also, we've had a significant increase in the number of deaf audiences this edition relative to last edition. So the system works. But how do you feel, I guess, Rosell and Sidney, about similar questions like ways of marketing that actually engage audiences of various kind of access needs or communities? Like, we find that as well, oftentimes working with communities of different cultural backgrounds, that you build the program but doesn't necessarily translate to attendance.
Maybe I'll do a very quick. Claire Finneran, who's one of our program producers at PAS, started doing letterbox drops as our advertising for our major programs. And it was so successful, just going back to people's mailboxes, because, our Instagram is very visual arts and it's very sort of looks like, an arts institution's Instagram. And if I have a family and I'm living in Granville, I don't care about that. But if I see a flyer saying that there's an open day at an art studio that's free and has food and everyone's welcome, I might come. So we started thinking about different ways that people actually receive that information in our communities as well, and thinking more broadly about what it means to do a digital campaign versus a actual leaflet drop. And she puts that under this title of street curating as well, because she's incredibly energetic and friendly, and just goes up to people on the street and invites them to our program. It's incredible, work. But that's one way, thinking about different barriers for someone to attend and what they might be interested in.
So with our marketing, it is quite broad, so I can't speak on behalf of that. But what I can speak on behalf on is what my programming. So with, let's just say, with our community, sometimes we can't expand so much. So I have a conversation with our internal colleagues. One of them, as an example, is one of our Aboriginal team members who have those community members and does not have funding a budget for a particular program that kind of associate to that community. So we have a discussion, we have a yarn, and what is the reasoning and what I can help in. And so what we can help in our access team is more of like, we have a budget. There's a program which is I can based in, which is Culture Dose, and that is a program that's already embedded. So let me have your community, and with your guidance and beside working together, I can only, either they can take that on or not, and usually they do, because you can't expect so many people in one staff member to do a lot of work expanding in that. It comes naturally for us, actually. Like an example, the Aboriginal Literacy Foundation. I would never ever had even the chance to expand that through that community. So it's my colleague who gave me kind of like open that program for both of us, actually. Again, it's the community and the people that I work with closely are expanding this program. So yeah, marketing in the community, it is very tricky. So it is about the people you work with closely, and then you kind of approach or go on an outreach program with them and say, hey, we have this program already embedded. Would you like to have a go? But yeah, that's...
On the topic of amazing colleagues, introducing you to like new worlds and new communities, I want to take a quick moment to shout out a colleague of ours, Jasmine Stevens, who unfortunately is no longer with us. She is still alive, but like half of the arts community, she's been poached by the Powerhouse Museum. And she is now hanging planes from the ceiling as a conservator. So Jasmine is a really dogged and fierce advocate for accessibility, and really put the fire under everyone in the organisation. A lot of the programs that we had in the Biennale were thanks to Jasmine's advocacy and persistence, and often really put herself in uncomfortable situations and had lots of really fierce altercations with people to try and get us to improve access across the organisation. And now she's gone. And we are living in the kind of benefits of her having been here, but at some point we will also be gone. And so I guess the question is, how do you embed these sorts of things in a way that is not reliant on people like Jasmine, not reliant on a champion within the organisation, but something that is more systemic or endemic? I don't think it's a question that many organisations have actually resolved, but I would love to hear if anybody has any insights. Why don't we start with you, Sidney?
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess the organisation in many ways is the people. So how do you embed that when the people shift? I don't necessarily know if there's other program producers out there that would be on the street sort of asking people if they want to come to PAS Open Day for hours, or that would work with the team to sort of literally go to every mailbox in the area. So it is something like maybe the people who work at the organisation inform what is happening there at that moment, and it doesn't create necessarily a deficit if they leave. It creates an opening, I guess, to a new voice to come in and say how they work as well. But within the organisation, I think its responsibility is to offer a viewpoint of who we are, and that is, I guess, understood and reflected in the work that the staff or the people in the organisation do. So, I mean, I don't want to say that that's strategy, but I don't know, I guess in some ways it's a document, it's a policy, it's a procedure, it's care, and it's making sure that is carried forward and that it's relevant, because I think that what that was 5 years ago, last month, 100 years ago is really different. And so as long as the organisation has flexibility to understand what that is in that moment, it will be answered by the people who work there. Is that an answer? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I agree with you with that. It's about shared responsibility for the team, that the whole team should be involved and shared and be passionate about it. It's about a community of that. So I totally agree with you on that. It's really great answer. Yeah.
Yes. I think it's really internal staff training is really important. Again, going back to our DAP, our disability inclusion planning strategies and our diversity inclusion strategies, that is really the pinnacle of how we can move on to it. Because, yes, people go and sometimes they won't share that knowledge as much. And so you always have to go back to the strategy. And then it is internal staff planning, external consultation, the organizations with community groups. What else is there? Artists and individuals with lived experience is the key. And empath, you're dealing with people. So if you love this, I love this work because, and there's also challenges as well in any workspace, but the people that you work with and the people you impact and the community you impact, I think that's the most thing you can give back to the next person. Is more about, do they care? And I'm going to go with that. It's a sense of care. It is a sensitive time, and care is the most important thing at the moment. And yeah, I think that's all you can do. And I think, especially in the gallery, there's so many of us, and because everybody leads into the person that knows best. From that person, I kind of mirror back and goes like, what do you need from me, and what can you actually go beyond this without me?
Thank you so much. I think in the interest of time, we probably need to jump into audience questions now. We've covered a lot of ground. I will just throw, I guess, to this person in the audience here.
I agree with everything that's been said, but I just keep reimagining something else very soon. I think it's wonderful that the Biennale has really focused on social impact and engaging the communities at the grassroots level. But I would like to imagine a time when grassroots communities say, hey, we've got this project, we've got this cluster of our artists who want to come together, and we've chosen you to be the ones to promote this. Or they'll be saying, hey, we need to develop an idea, and what we want to do is we're fed up with this misinformation or this thing that we have to explain to people all the time, and we want an art project that does that. So like they talk about a museum of justice or a museum of the mind, where actually the grassroots people will say, this is what we want to present about ourselves or about the issues that we want other people to understand. And so we flip it. It's not about programming, it's not about staff. It's about having the bonds and the relationships so that over time, they just come to you and say, we're ready for this project. You're not setting the theme, they're setting the theme. And the audience will come because it's already connected.
I think lots of artistic directors in different biennales around the world kind of chase the idea of grassroots engagement. And, it's a sort of like the perpetual goal of these organisations and curators, but I don't think anybody has ever really, to my knowledge, at least in the local sector, broken down the institutional barriers enough to allow people in. I think it's an interesting thing that you're discussing, the idea of artists coming to the Biennale, because it's so many arts organisations don't function like that at all, and they the pathways to access for curatorially speaking are really open. The Biennale certainly is pretty confusing, I think, to local artists in terms of how they actually engage with the artistic directors. But I guess, maybe we can ask, do any of you know any organisations or have examples within your own of people that are taking a much more grassroots approach to curation?
I guess I'll throw Claire Finneran out there again as the street curator. we've absolutely had and hosted programs that she's had a conversation with, I don't know, a person on a train once, like about a program, and then we've put it on. So she's definitely someone that is part of our organisation that is open to those discussions very much, particularly thinking through the lens of the local community. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea, and surely we should be doing that. I mean, I think in terms of curators, if we think about that title, we think about how it means care, there should be an openness, and that barrier of talking to someone in that role is so tricky as an artist. It's like, really, you gotta take a deep breath before you have that conversation, and even then it's often not necessarily met. So maybe it's a cultural shift that needs to occur in the arts, and I think is, where there is more openness to being met by ideas from other people, I guess. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's funny, I've got this beautiful work colleague that I work with at the MDA, and we've actually set up our own little group, and it's called Spark Collective, and we just thought that would be our way of getting in contact with curators and different institutions and offer them what we can offer. And what's great about our group is that they're all diverse. I have a deaf art educator, we have a queer art educator, we have mental health art educator, and then we have First Nations. So all the four of us, we all create workshops that all that is embedded in that workshop. So it's really exciting in that we've had a few, lots of positive feedback, and I'm really excited about the future of that, because I think that's the only way we can get it to spread out more and developing, creating more access and more inclusivity in that kind of field for workshops as such. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. As always, the only way is collectivising. We had a question up the back.
We have an online question. So this is for the whole panel. Mike, you talked about DAR. Can others on the panel share specific actions and efforts you make when you're welcoming communities that are entering your organisations for the first time?
For the people up here, it was, can you think of any examples of actions or initiatives that you take with new people entering your communities to make them feel welcome?
So again, going back to the program Culture Dose, so especially Settlement Services Internationals and the Aboriginal Literacy Foundations, to welcome them, it's about the space around that as well, being able to welcome them from the beginning, from the end. So, so sometimes there's accessibilities in their physical accessibilities and language accessibilities as well. So where the physical part is more about, you know, what we offer, which is the wheelchairs and chairs in front of the artworks while they're actually looking at the program, the artworks and going through the programs. And languages is when slow conversation, taking time, give them a moment to think, and be able to actually open that conversation that there is no right or wrong from the beginning. That this is, when I welcome them to the gallery, I say to them, this is yours. This space is yours. No one else, but everybody else. And so, that's part of the welcoming I can offer. Oh, and also food. Food is the most important thing in my my program. we unpack a lot of things through food, and that is part of the programming that we do as well. It's part of the, so let's just say an example is that I've got an all, multicultural community coming in, so I specifically cater for that specific culture. And then it kind of like unpack the conversations. They're like, oh, wow, like, you know this? And I'm like, yeah, I know that. And then kind of like, oh, and then unpacking about conversations about what they remember about this food. That's one of the engagement and welcoming them in.
Yeah, I believe that. I feel that building with the audience, the audience are the most important people to learn from. Listen to them, what they want, and improve what they want. Like, especially the deaf community, from when I first started doing Auslan tours up to now, I'm still improving a lot. I'm still learning a lot. But it's been a great experience, and just listening to them and making them feel safe and making them want to come back. And from the beginning, it was only about 2 people turn up. And now we have a cut-off limit to 20. It could have gone more, but we have to have a limit of 20 because they are giving us all the information of what they want, and we're giving it back to them. They were working together with them and having that sense of safe enjoyment. And there are some audience who were very intimidated when they first started going to the exhibition. And then over time they become really confident, and then now they take over. They literally take over and talk about the artwork. I thought, great, go for it, yay. So it's lovely to see that, yeah.
As well?
Kind of before this discussion, the bit about, we've spoken about going out with leaflets to engage with the local community and building the awareness that already existed in that want for engagement with the deaf community. But when you're speaking about the Culture Dose program, I'm wondering how you initiated those relationships to get new audiences into the space in the first place, whether they were existing visitors that were a bit reluctant to engage, or how did you initiate that first engagement so that you could get people to visit again and get to include them into that program?
Yeah, so we offer the Culture Dose Art After Hour, which is like it's like a taster of it. So some people who never heard of it, they just come in and they said, oh, I never knew this existed and so on. And then we kind of exchange conversations of they know a particular organizations that require something like this. That is something that I take in and have a conversation with them. And also communities, I go outreach. So what I mean by that is sometimes there are particular spaces where I think that, let's say, starts, in the urban for creative aging, and that kind of bring those people, those communities as well. There are also, again, conversations with the people that I had through that evening as well, that they know that there's a particular organizations that may require this. For example, Stride Mental Health reached out to us in that way as well. So it's all organic conversations, and then that's when we start having that exchange, opening that community. Bear in mind, in the ideal world, we would love to go in every part of that, but there's only 2 of us in that. And so having an engagement between, amongst the people that is actually had the taster of that program, they give us that side of insight as well from that particular community that I'm not aware of. Maybe other people or my colleagues may be aware of, but for me, I'm only one person to go beyond as much as I can, because most of the time I'm not in the office. I'm on the floor constantly doing programs. Also, publics, they come sometimes they say, do you have a particular program that can actually engage with ABC? And I go, they'll have a conversation with me and then unpack that on if we are the right program to share with, or vice versa. But yeah, in an ideal world, we would love to have multiple ways of marketing things, but we're getting there, I think.
On a similar note, I think one of the learnings from this Biennale would be that if you want to bring people into the room, what you have to do is make friends with charismatic, popular people. We have tried as much as possible to access networks of deaf and hard of hearing people through regular marketing channels and have not had a lot of traction. But we are increasingly developing our deaf and hard of hearing audiences. I think because, as Angie was saying, Angie and Sue know lots of people in community and have developed a relationship with them, and then those people bring their friends. So with a lot of our programs this time, we inherited quite a spooky problem in that Hua, our artistic director, was really interested in works that only really work and make sense in the context of community activation. And then we were like, well, shit, what if they don't come? And so we ended up with these two community ambassadors called Paula Aboud and Claudia Chiriac, who are unbelievably well connected and to loads and loads of different communities around Australia. And they are the people that we go to all the time for advice. And they are plugged into this matrix whisper network of aunties on WhatsApp. And that is where all of this stuff is actually happening. All of the marketing of these events is happening in intra-community networks. It's not happening on our email list for a lot of these more community-focused events. And I think if you are serious about building accessible audiences, you need community champions to be in there helping you out. It's gauche for the moderator to have the last word, but I think we've run out of time. And so I would like to call up Liz, the CEO of Accessible Arts, for some closing words.
Thank you so much. And put our hands together and thank our wonderful panel. Rosell, Flatley, Angie, Goto, Sidney, McMahon, and Mike Kennedy. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom and insights at this Access Ideas and Insights event. Thank you to all of you for making the time and the commitment to come and join us here in person or online. It's a wonderful way to spend the afternoon learning and sharing really practical ideas and hearing how others are doing it and learning from each other and acknowledging this constant sort of learning space that we're in to increase access, participation and inclusion. So thank you. Thank you to the Accessible Arts team and all the hard work that they do. There's only really a couple of us, so they're pretty amazing. And also thank you to Biennale for hosting us here at White Bay. It's been an absolute pleasure. A couple of things to highlight before I jump off. Bundanon, we have an artist residency open at the moment. It closes on the 7th of June. So please share it with your folks, apply. It's really an amazing opportunity to go down and create some new work for writers, visual artists and musicians. A little bit of, it's terrible to do this, but it is the end of financial year. And if you want to dive a little bit more deeply into really practical tips around access, what you can do, there was a lot of chatter about marketing. We have an accessible marketing training session. So there's lots to choose from. You can go on and book as an individual. You can come to one of our public sessions, or you can go on and book as an organisation, come to public sessions or book your own private sessions. So that's pretty good. And the other thing is we do a whole host of consulting services. So as an organisation, if you're keen to improve your access, we can come round and do a walk and talk access audit. We can do a website audit, all those sorts of things, really practical things. So give us a call or email us. Our Access Ideas and Insights podcast series is on. All of the episodes are up, all 6, so you can check that out in your own time. Please stay in touch. If you're in the room, there are snacks. Please stay, join us for a chatter. If you're online, we'll see you at the next Access Ideas and Insights. Thanks so much, everyone.